maxed out the levels on a few classes, so I've taken a break from it, and I've been because I've been playing through so I set myself a goal of like, right, I'm going to play all the Resident Evils again. Then I got the From Software games like Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Demon Souls, Dark Souls to go through, and then one that's not so popular but I still like it is I'm doing the Far Cry series as well, but only from 3. I didn't like 1 and 2.
One was a bit weird. It was like it was as though it was trying to kind of find itself. Number
It was
2,
like, it's almost like it tried to be a horror as well. It's weird. Yeah, it didn't fit with the rest of the. Well, they obviously it wasn't popular because they completely changed the narrative after that point. I think 3 was where it really took off though.
That's the one where you crash on an island or you get kidnapped into the guy with the kind of mohawk.
Yeah, Voss. Yeah, and
Voss.
it's played by Michael Mondo, who ended up in. He's done a few things since then, like Breaking Bad. He was in that and stuff. He's a really decent actor. And if you like the Far Cry series, they actually did. You can find it on YouTube. They did a promo for the show, and it's got McLovin in it. It's called the Far Cry Experience, and his boat, like he's filming on this island, and basically it ends up being that they're on Vars's island, and they did a weekly sort of a poll every week on how McLovin should basically be tortured that week. And it's a really good series, but yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, because the second one, I remember getting the second one, and I was quite excited for it, and I think it went from not knowing what it was just to being too difficult. And like, if you picked up a mate and he get wiped out, and it was just a bit of a mess. But I did like, I did like. I think it was in 2. It started with the telephone poles and all that. You had to uncover them to uncover a bit of the map. I actually enjoyed that.
Sorry, dog. And also it's Far Cry 2 as well, where because it was set in Africa, wasn't it? You kept on having to take your malaria tablets. Yeah. That was another weird aspect to it. And then you'd end up like just forgetting to take them all the time. You're like, why is my character so sluggish and slow? And you're like, oh right, it's because he's got malaria now, apparently. Far Cry 3 for me was the one where it took off. Far Cry 4 was the one where I really liked the bad guy in Far Cry 4 as well. I thought he was really well played because he's completely opposite to the one before. I mean, it was an interesting setting. And unfortunately, if Far Cry 3 was a little bit later and it sort of had some of the game mechanics, the additional game mechanics of Far Cry 4, I do think it would have been even more popular than it was. But yeah, that's just one of those things where the game develops over time.
Yeah, Far Cry 4 was a bit weird because it was like magical powers and you had to go and hunt animals and like skin them and all that. It was kind of like
you had to do that in 3 as well, but it was set in like you never know where Far Cry's set. It's always in fictional places, but you can tell where it's based. In Far Cry 4, it's based in Nepal, I think, was where it was. That was that sort of mountainous. Like there's a lot of that, and there were those magical elements where it was when you met the stoners, wasn't it? Whenever you'd meet the stoners, they'd end up jabbing you with some drugs, and you'd end up going into sort of some weird dreamland sort of part of it, which was I didn't like those bits as much, but yeah.
I did like try to wipe out an entire encampment without being seen. I like that part of Far Cry from Far Cry 1 was absolutely brilliant. I never played 5 and I never played Far Cry Prehistoric. I never played that because I would just get wiped out by crocodiles.
No, I never liked Primal. Didn't appeal to me. It's I've luckily on the PlayStation now, on PlayStation Plus, you get. I know it's the same with Xbox Ultimate as well. You get so many games that you can download for free, and they had the entire Far Cry series. So I skipped Primal, but I downloaded like the mainline games. So I downloaded 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I left out the little ones that like the branch off ones. I wasn't really interested in those ones. But yeah, at the minute I'm still going through the Resident Evil, so It's
What Resident Evil are you on?
I'm on the go at the minute. I'm on Resident Evil 4 at the minute. I did 0 and 1, which I always recommend to people. If you're going to play it, play 1 before 0 because you won't have a clue what's going on. Resident Evil 2, the remake, was genuinely nostalgically brilliant.
Yeah,
It was really well done. Um, and Resident Evil 3, I really like because Jill was like seeing Jill remastered. That was good. I think people always compare those two, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, but like I always think I can never pick which one I like more. I think Resident Evil 2 definitely for the nostalgia because that's the one I remember playing on PlayStation 1. I think the
yeah.
most.
And you used to have
Um,
to switch discs as well, wasn't it, in PlayStation 1, if you wanted to do
yeah,
Jill and
yeah, yeah.
Leon's storyline?
Yeah, because Leon and Claire Redfield. It was the
Uh-huh.
two in those, and then the remake. I was saying to somebody the other day like how good the graphics are, and I was saying, I said, you remember when you were a little preteen kid and you'd have your little video game crashes? And I said, well, with Ada Wong in this new remake, I said somebody clearly was paid to animate her and was told, look, Jeff, you've got a budget on this and a time frame. Don't go overboard on this. And he's went, yeah, and completely ignored them and just gone off. Um, the graphics in it are incredible, and Resident Evil 3 was good as well. I enjoyed that. Like the persistence of Nemesis
Yeah,
in Resident Evil 3 was just great. It's like how many times am I going to have to kill this guy? But but Resident Evil 4, I do think that was the best one when it came out, and it the remake is just as good as well. It's
that's the one in the village, isn't it? Because I think I
yeah,
got that.
in the Spanish village, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got that for the Wii when it came out. So, like, see,
Yeah,
doing the chainsaw, like, with a Wii
yeah, the
controller.
chainsaw fight thing. Yeah. Well, Resident Evil 4. I was actually funny enough. I was talking to Casey about this the other day when I posted some clips of it, and I was saying that Resident Evil 4 really was the best one because it should have been a disaster. If you look at like all the elements of it, it's basically what every modern day Star Wars fan rants and raves about. Like they've taken a beloved series, number one. They've taken one of the favorite characters, which is Leon. They've
Yeah,
stuck him in an environment that's nothing like the first two games that everybody enjoyed, and they've changed loads of it. And it was the first game that had that over the shoulder view as well.
yeah.
And it should have been a disaster, but it was so good. The story's so good in it as well.
Yeah, like, I always remember playing the first one. And, like, this was, like, way before, like, YouTube or the internet. And it was I'll never forget this
But
how,
I'm not
like,
a rapper.
well, thanks very much for the follow. That's our new follow alert. We've been messing about with Twitch the last couple of days. Uh, it's when you're in, I think it's a greenhouse or something, and you have to run by the bathtub. And
Yeah,
man, I must have spent easily 2 months like shooting it, trying to run by it, and then I ended up getting the Games Master magazine, and that's what told you, oh, you need to get the fertilizer. And I was like, are you kidding me on, man?
yeah. It's like the one in the series that like because people who like it is one of those series like where if you know you know, and like I always get asked like what's the scariest one, and I can instantly tell you it's 7. 7 is the scariest one by a long way as well. It's not it's genuinely there were moments playing 7 the first time I played 7 when I'd be sat downstairs playing it, and then all of a sudden I'd realise I'm on my own downstairs, and I'm like, yeah, that's enough for me now. But
Yeah, I was like that. I was like that with Dying Light. Did you ever? Not Dying
yeah,
Light. I was like that with Dying Light, but before Dying Light, Dead Island.
Dead Island, yeah, the Dead Island zombies, they the mix of them are those ones that run at you
Yeah,
are genuinely terrifying.
it was the scream that they pitched out, and it
Yeah,
was like I think they were called butchers, weren't they? Because they had no hands. It was just like,
yeah,
and the scream that they would, and then you're looking just to run and parkour a
yeah.
building, or you're making sure that your machetes. Oh, it was mental.
I remember in Dead Island, especially when the butchers are around, all the ones that run at you. I remember thinking the one godsend when playing that game, because your heart would be genuinely racing, and you'd spot a ladder in the corner and like, yes, like, please get me up there. But yeah, that happens a lot in these new Resident Evil remakes. The jump scares, some of them I've had to like pause, put the remote down, like, like, and it's when that moment when the music stops and you're being set up for something as well. Like,
Oh, like the first one was creepy as well, especially when the face lickers, like you first seen them,
yeah,
and then they started chasing you. It was like, oh my
yeah.
god, like.
The dogs in Resident Evil are what terrify me as well, because they move so quick, and usually because of the way that it's that third person aiming, and usually one of the key signatures of Resident Evil is that you don't have a lot of ammo, so you have to make it count, and you're sat there backing off with a pistol, like trying to, oh, please, I need to hit this guy. Like, the shotgun is the greatest godsend in Resident Evil, just purely for its stopping power. But yeah, there's that. So Resident Evil 4, I've got basically it's been over like birthdays and Christmas and stuff. The family, like, they always mess with me what to get me. So this sort of the beginning of the year, I just made a list of all the Resident Evil games and games I want to play. And I'm like, unless I've said otherwise, I haven't got these, and I'll cross them off as they're bought for me. So yeah, just go off that list. So they've made good progress, to be fair, through the Resident Evil game. So I think I'm only missing, because I'm only doing the mainline one, so I'm not doing Outbreak or Outbreak 2, even though I did like them. They haven't got a remake on beyond PS2. But yeah, so it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Revelations, 6, Revelations 2, 7, and then the end Village at the end. But if you're a big Resident Evil fan as well, it's like a real exciting time, because like there's a guy, basically, like how with Warhammer there's a couple people who, whenever they say they give a leak, it's going to be true. Like, whenever it's their Reddit page that says it, it's going to be true. There's a similar guy, I always forget his name, with Resident Evil, and he leaked recently that they're currently working on 3 remakes and a new game. So Resident Evil 9 they're working on, as well as 3 remakes. And the 3 remakes he said that were being done is Resident Evil Code Veronica, which is another one of the best ones. So that's a good start. Resident Evil 5, and I think it was Revelations is being redone as well. Or no, Resident Evil 0 is being redone.
What did you think of the Resident Evil movie franchise?
Yeah, I liked it when I was younger. Like, I watched those films. Like, it's got Mila Jovovich in it, so I've got to watch it. Like, I always just like that. That's like Leela in Fifth Element is probably one of the first movie crushes of a young preteen, to be fair. But yeah, like, so I did enjoy the films, even though they do try to incorporate some of the actual story in it. But the Resident Evil lore is just too dense to have everything in.
Yeah,
In the film.
I felt like the first one was good in the aspect of, and not many people picked it up. Like, see when like most of the like kind of private army get wiped out, and then they came back and the bodies were gone. That was like kind of payback, like homage to the games where you would go and kill somebody and then come back and the body would be gone. I liked the wee touches like that, and I did like the first one. Like, they just got a wee bit more mental, as kind of like the Resident Evil games. They got a wee bit more mental than more did.
But with the movies, the bit that was a shame was like, it was kind of like they brought Wesker in, and the guy who plays, I always forget his name, but the guy who played Wesker, he's like pitch perfect, like image perfect of Wesker as well, like in the second and third films and stuff. But it was just a shame they didn't, like, they had, other than Alice, they actually had like the full sort of setup to actually follow the story fully. Then they just chose not to, and then when they did, was the second one was Retribution, wasn't it? Resident Evil Retribution was the second one, and they did Jill Valentine. And I was like, oh, they are actually sticking to the story with Nemesis and all the rest of it. And then it started again. It started to disappear off track a little bit, which is again is is fine. You got to have that creative freedom and stuff. But yeah, beyond the second one, they did start to go a bit. It was like that bit at the end. I think it's at the end of this third film or something when because that's the one where Chris and Claire first come into it, and they go to that boat out in the middle of nowhere, don't they? With Wesker on.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, Alice manages to like basically remotely kill that guy from over the camera.
Yeah, just
and
looking
you're like,
at him.
right, what is this now then? Like, what power have you got now? Like,
Yeah.
there were bits in those films where it was just a bit. It was like, I think we've taken it a step too far. If they've done some animations though, like actual animations on I think there's one on Crunchyroll. I think been a couple released to Netflix as well, and they were all really, really good and really brutal as well. Some of those animations.
And how far? So you've been playing the Resident Evil games. What about the Soulsborne games? How many?
So Souls at the minute, I've just I've basically got them all ready. I started a character. I'm not playing them in order. So I did Elden Ring. I've created a character on Elden Ring. And then I'm just because the only experience I had prior, I always knew they were great games, but it was just that daunting fact of how hard From Software games was. And I think when I got my PS4, Bloodborne came with it, and I started playing it, and I was like, man, this is like ridiculously hard, and I never really played it much. And then when I was watching somebody else play Elden Ring, I was like, oh, I've got to play these games. They look so good. And the lore and story that goes with it. And like the fact that none of them they're not all completely connected, but like they're all harp to similar similar beginnings and stuff.
There's one character that's in every single game.
Yeah.
Patches, and that's really it. Like I think there's like wee like throwbacks to each game. Like, I think that's why Patches is there, because he always tries to backstab you. Like I'm going through Elden Ring again, and I'm only using the dragon powers and the arcane blade if I really, really have to. So I'm not using a shield or anything like that. I love the Souls games, but I remember when me and my sons first started playing Dark Souls, it was on the Xbox Gold Pass, and I was like, give it a try. And I was just going, how hard is this game? And I remember looking up like how do you get by the first boss? And then I was like, oh, to get by the tutorial boss, and I was like, this is the tutorial? Like, Jesus Christ.
Do you remember that first spot? He's one of the first ones I came across in Elden Ring. So you're going through, and there's those like sort of gargoyles that you're going through, and there's the only way I can describe the boss is a giant stone version of like those Chinese cats that go like that with their hands.
Oh yeah.
That thing, someone goes, it can't be that hard to me. I was like, I am not even making this up. I died on that one of the first bosses. I died like 35 times at least. He just kept every time I thought I worked his like pattern out, he changed slightly and he'd just get me again.
Yeah,
but then I didn't know what class to roll or anything like that. I didn't look up anything, so I went in completely blind when I first did it.
There is a wee exploit you can do at the very start. So how far are you into Elden Ring at all?
Not that far. A few hours maybe.
Right. So if you've not fought like the first main boss, like they're like they catacombs, you can miss them, but you get some good swag in there. If you go right and keep going right, and you might have to go onto YouTube and you find a dragon, right, that's just lying there, and if you get a blade that can cause bleed, and you just multi this dragon for about 10 minutes, and it'll bleed out if you get a bleed weapon. You get 80,000 runes, and that can really OP you right at the start, and you get 3 dragon hearts as well. I always do that. There is a kind of wee video at the start. There is a wee video on YouTube that tells you like a good way to go to like pick up like smithing stones and all that to upgrade your weapon as well. But yeah, I actually completed Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 before I actually completed Dark Souls. Because for me, Dark Souls was just like Everest, man. It was just like, how am I dying to this?
I'm not a rapper.
Yeah,
how am I dying to this tutorial boss like for the third time? Do you know what I mean?
yeah. They are incredible. Like I try to work it out in Bloodborne as well. Like there were points when, and this is just going off of when I played it when PS4 first came, and there were points when like I have because they have the extending, like I had the extending axe. That's the weapon I chose as the melee weapon and stuff like that. And I remember like never having it in the right mode. Like whenever I needed it to be in that long sweeping mode, I'd always be caught with it in the short mode, and it just they just pummel. And I remember you're not far into the game, and you hear all this scuffling and shouting, and you're like, right, well, I know what I'll do. I'll avoid that, and I'll go the other way. So you go the other way, and then this giant, like the only way I can describe him was like a giant evil Quasimodo just comes out flying from behind these crates and just mullers me in one hit. I'm like, right, all right, cool, we are going that way then.
Oh,
But
but there is a good guy on YouTube that does all the lore for Elden
yeah,
Ring, and his videos.
yeah,
I've been trying to get a hold of him to maybe bring him on because like
that
the
would be
dude,
good. Yeah, I think I know the one you mean as well. Because
because
there's one I was telling someone the other day as well. There's a guy who does all the Destiny lore, and when you're playing Destiny, you don't
I'm
you
not a
do
rapper.
pay attention to the main lore, but you don't really see how it all fits together. And the way he's done like the full timeline, they're with each of these games, especially like the From Software games. Like the fan base behind it are like fanatical for detail when it comes to. They kind of put like Warhammer fans. They kind of make them look less sweaty. To be fair, if I'm honest, like somehow in this world, which is really saying something. Um,
I just want to say hi to a few people that are in the chat. We've got Leafy Decays and we've got Green Mike. Just want to say thanks for the follows. That's what you hear. Like people are just following us now. We can try and get up to 50. If anybody's got any questions in the chat, then throw them in, and we'll try and get to them. But yeah, like there's just so many people out there. Like there's a guy that does like top 10. He does all the Souls games. I can't remember his name now, but he does like top 10 like NPC or top 10 invades, top 10 deaths, and some of the people like sniping me with like massive bows and arrows that they've laid traps for people. Like so, in like Dark Souls, especially in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, you can like if you've invaded somebody's game, you can actually leave like soul packets or like weapons, and they can come and pick them
yeah,
up. But these people had laid traps, so they were just like firing arrows that had explosive points, and then they would get like yatsied off a bridge, and it was just brilliant. Like
there's some as well. Like when you're watching not just those games, but when you're watching other get like people game on stuff, and they'll find like a hack or something in it. Like I remember one of the classic ones I remember is in World of Warcraft on the one of the capital cities of Ogrimmar, basically. There was somebody had figured out that there were some blocks on the outside of the wall. So if you were Alliance characters and you wanted to raid Ogrimmar, you could actually climb up the main outer wall and over the top because there was an invisible set of blocks. But all you had to do was make sure that your character was running at the wall when you did it. And it was a case of like, how long did it take someone to figure out this was here? Either a developer let slip or somebody has genuinely spent a lot of time looking for these bugs in this game. But yeah, there was a fair few in World of Warcraft.
yeah, there's one in Dark Souls, and you go way down into Blighttown, and you end up in this swamp because Dark Souls Miyazaki loves a good swamp in his games, and you go up this kind of tree route, and you find this chest, and you open the chest and you get an item. You know, oh brilliant! I've got like a really good smithing stone or something, +10 or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And now it doesn't look as though there should be anything. There's a hidden wall behind the chest. It was like, how does somebody realise that there's a hidden wall?
yeah.
Because there's no signs that there would be a hidden wall, and it takes you to another like level. Like you have to go through
Mm.
this tree route all the way to the bottom, and you have to fight another kind of Hydra monster. It's like, who discovered that? Like, no way did like, 'cause there's no hints that there's anything there that there should be a fake wall, unless somebody was just going bashing walls like all the time. Like,
I always like it when game developers spot their own bugs, but instead of completely removing them, they put some little like middle finger into the game just to mess with people.
what?
Like Witcher 3, there was that one where people would
You're already
like they noticed that this area where cows would keep respawning really quickly,
on Xbox.
so you could kill the cows repeatedly and they would keep spawning. They'd take all the leather and then sell it for loads, so they end up having loads of leather for sale in Witcher 3. The game developers realized this was happening, so they put a fiend, which is a massive monster in Witcher 3, and they made it unkillable and it chases you forever, and if you do manage to kill it, another one pops up straight away. And it just to punish you for trying to cheat. And I think the South Park games, because I played the Stick of Truth recently as well, and I just started the Fractured But Whole, and there's a bit where you have to undo the I'm not going to say his superhero name, but Cartman's superhero's name's base, and you have to enter it on the keypad, and you can't work it out to start with. And if you look it up online, like, so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go to his room. There's a hidden note in his room with the code on. But if you just looked it up online, what the code was, and entered it, that picture of Cartman as a football coach would appear up, and it'd be like, "Come on, Tom Brady, you're going to cheat your way through this game, or are you actually going to play the game?"
I mean,
there's so many good ones like that.
What got you to do? Because you did that for about solid 2 weeks, just putting up. Like, what would you rather play? What got you to do that?
I was talking with a mate about. We were talking about like retro games and stuff, about what was like games we are trying to remember, and so what actually started it was the missus got me one of these.
Oh, cool.
The Retro Boys, and it's basically just an emulator console that does Game Boy Advance, N64, PlayStation 1, like you name it, like of the retro consoles, it's on there. So we were going through and sort of finding little gems that we could download from like is it ROM Island or something like that, and putting on there. And we got into a bit of a heated discussion over which was the greatest platform game. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, or Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Croc, and there was one more. What was the other one? I think we did say it was Abe's Exodus, but we did all agree that Abe's Exodus didn't really fit in that category, although it is a classic.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot was another control smasher.
Yeah,
but probably one of the best computer games is probably Super Mario World. Like, that is just it's such a good game. Like, you can't go wrong with it. A lot of the Super Nintendo games were good. Like,
so we were talking this is another point that I was making to someone the other day. So we were talking about what like when I did those things, like what was the best console and going through them. I did agree with a lot of what people were saying, and a lot of people were messaging saying I can't pick between these two and all the rest of them. And although I would always say like out of the big boy sort of matchups, like for instance the original Xbox, the GameCube, and the PlayStation 1, that was sort of a holy trinity there. Dreamcast does fit into it as well, and I refuse to say it doesn't fit in there, like, because that console came out 2 years before the other two, and it's not that it was worse in any way. It just didn't have the games to go with it, but they knew they were going bankrupt, so they had to get it out the door.
kind of like the Atari Jaguar. Like, that was way advanced before its time, but it just never had the games. It's like the Wii. The Wii was like, the way I look at the Wii, it had such good ideas, but there wasn't any games there for gamers. That was the problem. Like, you had Resident Evil 4 and you had like Medal of Honor, but there just wasn't any gamer games.
It was a party console.
Yeah,
that's what it was for. And like with the I have a lot of people who, when I do those things, they message me. And to be fair, when I do the polls and stuff, that's my favorite bit about doing Instagram, is doing those ones, that sort of stuff. I'm not really interested in doing, like, I'm going to post a reel every day or anything like that, even though I get people messaging me, telling me all the time to do that. But I like those polls and stuff because it is interesting to hear people's point of view. And when we're talking about like the best console, I do think I agree with the statement that when you're looking at the best consoles, it is a 2-horse race. However, what I do say to people, Nintendo's not included in that race anymore. But what I'll say is, with Nintendo products, I always find that, like, even with the PS5 is immense how good it is. But after a week or two, it's just another thing.
Yeah.
With a Nintendo product, it always feels special. Like, even with my Switch, I've had my Switch, and I've had the Switch OLED for a few years now. And when I first power it on, it does that ding, and the Nintendo sign pops up. That still makes me smile. Like, it still feels like the first day I got it. It still feels special, and all the Nintendo products feel like that. I feel anyway.
The thing with Nintendo that like they've had the longevity and they've managed to still turn out decent consoles. Like they outlasted Sega. I mean, they
Yeah.
outlasted Atari. Like for a company that just pornos at the start back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wasn't it pornos and cards, wasn't it? Like games cards or it's something like that, wasn't it?
but like I think when you like, oh, what's the best console? It's like asking who's the best ever footballer. You have to look at it in a kind of generational way because like
Yeah.
Super Mario World still stands up today, and so does like Mario Kart. But games
And
like
so does Zelda.
yeah,
All the Zelda games. Ocarina of Time, I still think that's like one of the best games ever made. That is easily.
yeah, but like it'd be like comparing Pelé to Ronaldo or
Yeah,
Ronaldinho, like
yeah.
different generations, different times. Like there is certain games like I love Command and Conquer. I'm a big Command and Conquer fan.
Mhm.
And Football Manager fan. I played put a lot of hours into Football Manager and Command and Conquer. I love the entire series of Command and Conquer and how it all tied in because they actually did that story quite well. Where Kane was in the first game, Command and Conquer, and it was set in the far future. And then they did like Command and Conquer Red Alert, like kind of Russians. What would have happened if Hitler died and it was then the Russians rising up and everybody fought against the Russians. But Kane was in the background even then. It was like Kane had this kind of
Yeah.
messiah complex towards the end where he knew that the Strin were coming. And I think as a franchise, the last game was bad because it tried to do what Warhammer did and like pick your MCV, you're going to be support defensive, but that's not what Command and Conquer was about. But
No.
thought like the Command and Conquer series overall was brilliant. Command and Conquer Tiberium Wars was brilliant because it gave a new faction. And me and my mates used to play it. So like two of my mates would go GDI, and I would go Sprin, and we
Yeah.
just used to hours playing that.
See, too. I know that you mentioned one there. Football Manager. We didn't play Football Manager as much. We played LMA Manager a lot.
Yeah,
And my mate, his parents used to like in the 6 week summer holidays. They always used to like book a holiday for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever. And they would go away, and he never went. So he was like home alone. His older sister was like sort of 18, so she was the adult or whatever. And we would literally leave our house, like me and another mate. We would leave our house, and we would literally go and live at his house for 2 weeks.
yeah.
And I would literally stop home once every few days and be like, by the way, I'm still alive. And they'd be like, yeah, all right then. And then off I go. And I remember this got to be 2000 and it's the early noughties at some point. Well, probably mid noughties at this point. And bear in mind, we played that game so much in the summer holiday, we were probably up to current timeline, like 2024 at that point. We played so many seasons. But yeah, that game we played. Command and Conquer I did play, but like I didn't really play the first one. I played Red Alert. I played Red Alert 2. In terms of like sort of commander games, the one game I probably spent the most time on was Age of Empires 2. That I spent loads of time on that. Cossacks was another game that was very similar. Played a lot of that. And obviously bringing it back to what the the hobby we supposed to be talking about, Warhammer, the Dawn of War series as well. Probably spent quite a bit of time. Dawn of War Dark Crusade is still up there for me, that game.
Yeah,
The one where Necrons first came in.
yeah, that was brilliant, and that's what got me into Command and Conquer. We've got
Yeah.
Green Man can chat going XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Spent most of my childhood. and the original UFO Enemy Unknown. Like, they're not games that I would have played. I've heard of them, but I lived with two of my mates who were into computer games, and we would have like three-way LAN parties. And one of my mates only worked Monday to Friday, so me and my other mate Scobie, we would book off. We finish early on a Friday and book the Saturday, Sunday off, and the Monday, and we would just play Football Manager the entire weekend, and it was really sad. And the other one that me and my mate played was Command and Conquer, Counter Strike. But
Oh, Counter
that that
Strike, yeah,
that was
that's a sweaty game. That is.
so sweaty. But people would accuse us of hacking, like because wall hacks and aimbots were a big thing. But because we
Yeah,
lived in the same flat, I
yeah,
would die and I'd be shouting to my mate up the stairs, "He's in the vent!" So my mate would
yeah.
just riddle the vent, and people would be like, "He's in the back wall." Like, he would know what everybody was doing. So we ended up having to stop doing that. Hi,
What's
Casey.
funny?
You're only 40 minutes late, man. That is a world record.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say that's
so
surprisingly early for you.
I have been coughing my guts out for the last half an hour, 45 minutes, so I didn't want anyone to have to listen to me. But thank you for your patience. I apologise for my tardiness.
What
Um,
color? What color was
Counter
your
Strike,
flame?
yes.
What color was your
I tell
flame?
you what colour was it?
Yeah,
It was like grey.
it wasn't orange.
It wasn't orange, no.
Funnily enough, we are sponsored by Orange Brushes. Good quality sable brushes for much cheapness. Give them a follow, people. Orangebrushes.com. Put in Inquisition in capital letters, 10% off.
Nice.
They have got their new brushes out as well. The purple and the blue ones, I forget. I think they're like size 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, I need to get
what
on
you
that order some actually, but I haven't. Like I said, I haven't been doing that much painting. I have actually got some stuff that I'm painting. It's just it's taking longer than normal. I just keep getting distracted. It's the hobby and the gym at this point. It's as soon as the PlayStation came in the house, it was kind of like, yeah, that's taking a back seat, hasn't it? That has. Like, yeah, I had a message the other day, and it was from like one of the people at the gym. It's like, is everything all right? And I was like, yeah. And then it was like, do I make up that I've had some sort of injury, or do I just be honest and tell them I've been lazy? And then I was like, well, I'll have to tell them I've been lazy because they're going to see when I get back there anyway. So it doesn't make any. When I first did that 15-minute warm up and I'm doubled over, dying over the bike or something, just like, I don't know.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in with your computer game things there, right? There was, I think I might have said this before, but my first taste of playing Halo was on a local link up, like Duncan was just saying. Mm-hmm. And on the original Xbox, before Xbox Live come out, Halo 1, when you headshot someone who's playing a game in a different room to you and you can hear them raging and smashing a pad or something.
Yeah. Do you know what the biggest rage game for me? And I haven't played one since this incident. And I promise you, this is genuinely what happened. So we were living in a flat at the time, and it was my eldest birthday. So he was the only kid that we had at that time. So we had balloons everywhere out for his birthday because we had loads of people over. And FIFA, right? I've not played a FIFA game since that. I've only ever played FIFA if my eldest says, "Come on, jump on a game with me," or we'll do like manager mode and we'll go through a season or whatever. And I was playing FIFA, and I bear in mind I'd broken 2 remotes at this point. I genuinely didn't know my own strength at one point because with the PS2 or PS3, I genuinely went like that with a controller and snapped one. And I'd been through a few at this point, like smashing them to pieces playing FIFA online. And anyway, it's his birthday, and I'm playing it, and it's 0-0 the entire game. And this guy I'm playing just pulls a skill out of nowhere in the 91st minute, scores 1-0. I throw my controller, it zooms off, hits one of the balloons on the floor and comes directly back at my face at the same speed, smashed me in the face. And I'm just stood there like this for a bit, like, and I genuinely, it really hurt. I felt blood coming out my nose, and I was like, it really did hit me. And I literally just took the FIFA game out of the PlayStation, snapped it, and went, "That's the last time I ever play FIFA." And I've never played it on my own since. Never played it online because I'll just end up raging.
I don't have like many FIFA rage stories, but I've got a FIFA, not that involved me, but I've got a belter of a FIFA rage story. So when we did our 6-week tours in South Armagh, we would take over our PlayStations, Nintendo 64. It was like back in 1998, 99 time, and we would set up a 6-week league. So everybody would like throw in some money, and whoever finished in the top three, there would be money involved. But it came down to the last day, and it was top two playing against each other. And I think the guy in second had to win the prize. Another guy was like, he was holding on for a draw because that's all he needed. It was in the last couple of minutes of the game, and my mate was running down the wing, and he was like to the guy, "I'm going to dive in the penalty area, get a penalty, and score and win the league." So he went in, and like penalties were hard to get for diving because you had to,
Yeah, you had to really
go for it. He got the penalty and he scored. My mate just stood up, unplugged my PlayStation. This was my PlayStation, and chucked it out a window and went, "I'll give you the money when we're back in Scotland." Fuck my PlayStation.
There's no amount of money that's going to sate my rage at this point, so I'm just going to take it.
Looked out a window. That was it, gone. I was like, "That's a fucking PlayStation." He's like, "I'll buy you another one."
So online sort of beat 'em up games is another one. Like I've played a lot of My Hero One's Justice 2. Like to the point where I genuinely stopped myself from playing it. I knew something was up because when I looked at the character rankings, like so you get like your rankings for the game overall, and I realized I was in the top 50, which is the first alarming thing when you go, I may have played this too much. And then the second thing was I looked at one of the characters that I played all the time. I played Bakugo all the time. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm in number 1 spot for him. And then even when I go back on it now, I haven't played it much. I haven't really played it since. I go back on it now and I'll look and I'm still in 3rd spot. And I'm like, how many hours did I sink into this bloody game? And like that sort of thing, that game would make you rage because there were so many characters in it that would just literally, there were a couple characters in it that were literally the only reason they were put in there was just to annoy people. It wasn't like gaming, it was like anti-gaming. It was just, it had an ability that someone could spam over and over again, and it wouldn't do a lot of damage, but it would just stop you from playing the game. And it was, I don't play many beat 'em ups online anymore. I'll play Demon Slayer. I quite like Demon Slayer. That's all right, but even that's got its sort of toxic side to it. But what I do like is with My Hero, what would happen is when you get good at the game, people rage quit on you all the time. Like it's impossible to get points because like people just rage quit all the time. What Demon Slayer did was they put a disconnect counter on your badge. So you could see how many times somebody had rage quit a game. So like sometimes there'd be like a character in it would say disconnects like 160, and you're like, yeah, well, I ain't getting any points out of this. And at the beginning of the game, you had the option to play or back out. So if it was a player that you had played repeatedly and they play like trash or anything like that, if you didn't want to block them or whatever, you could just back out of the fight. And whenever I saw someone with a high disconnect count, I was like, yeah, I'm not playing. Because I know how this goes.
At least it gives you the warning. Right?
Yeah.
Playing Street Fighter, what was it 4 and Ultra 4, whatever it was, Super 4. Like the amount of quits you'd get on that, like you actually start getting a rhythm, you start feeling yourself, and then the next minute they just back out. And like,
was that I saw one recently, and it was that new Dragon Ball Z game. Like I did like Dragon Ball Fighter Z as well. I thought that was really good. But this new Sparking 01, there was one. He's clearly very good at the game, and someone was getting their ass handed to them by this guy. Like, and he was absolutely like ragdolling them. And they'd obviously been typing this message up, and it's the cleanest transition I've seen. The person rage quits, and instantly you see a message appear in the top right corner. And it's like, "Go get yourself a woman, mate."
That you, Casey? That's something that probably one who used to would actually fucking do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, standard. Yeah. But have sex with her and quit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is.
what would you have both been back in the day? Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, man?
I played more Mortal Kombat, if I'm honest, but I didn't have Street Fighter, so. But yeah, Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat I played more.
I was the other way around. I was pure Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Who would you have went in with the respective franchises in?
I think Street Fighter for me, I liked what's the girl, the Japanese girl in blue?
Sakura.
It's not Sakura, no.
Is it a school? Not a school going.
No, in Street Fighter.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different Street Fighter character, Chun-Li.
Chun-Li, yeah. Chun-Li I played a lot of in the game, and yeah. And then in Mortal Kombat it was classic standard, it was Scorpion, or I did like Reptile when he came into the game as well.
Yeah. You know what? Back in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, I remember playing as Scorpion or Reptile or Sub-Zero more, because they're ninjas, and ninjas are just instantly cooler.
Yeah.
And that was always the thing about Mortal Kombat. Like, it was a little bit violent. It had actual ninjas in it, and you know, if you could get my cousin had it, and if we were going to school some mornings, like I'd go around to his first, and we would batter like a quick 20 minutes of Mortal Kombat in. And I remember I pulled off the toasty thing on Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh yeah.
And he looked at me like I was some sort of god. He's like, "How did you do that?" I was like,
yeah, don't know.
That's fun.
I liked it in the first Mortal Kombat on Sega Mega Drive. There was that. Do you remember that map where you would play and you're up on a bridge? And I always remember playing it. You'd always fight Raiden on that bridge, and then as the finish him, you could go for a fatality, or you could just go for the standard uppercut, and they'd fall down onto the spikes. Yeah, I remember that in that first game. Yeah, that was.
And outside Xbox did a really good thing with Mortal Kombat. They went through all the ninjas, and they were just basically taking the piss. Like they're saying, like, "Oh, now we've got a black ninja." Like, and they were saying that what was it they were saying? Like Ermac was the reason Ermac became a ninja was because it came up in the arcade as an error code. It was an error macro, and people thought it was for a character.
Yeah.
So they actually invented a guy called Ermac. It was like, dude, seriously.
And Noob Cybot, he was originally a glitch as well in the first game, because it would come up and it would say something like "Noob is watching," and it became such a thing getting that message up that they decided to write it. Because in the actual game later, when they started consolidating the lore, Noob Cybot is basically
Sub-Zero.
He's Sub-Zero, because Raiden tries to convince Scorpion not to kill him. But then it's in, I think there's a game called Deadly Alliance that Mortal Kombat did, where it really fleshed out because it had who was the other big bad? Not Shang Tsung, it was Quan Chi. And it was basically those two joined forces, and they said it Raiden basically tried to convince Scorpion not to kill Sub-Zero, and he'd like talk to the gods about bringing his family back or something. But then just at the last minute, when Scorpion is like gonna let him go, Quan Chi comes in and shows him a vision of like sort of Sub-Zero killing his clan, and then he just goes mad and kills Sub-Zero. But like obviously with Raiden trying to stop him from killing him, the whole idea was because he didn't want Noob to appear.
And one of those outside
Xbox
things, they were going through like the animalities for each of the. And they're saying like, Scorpion, what would you expect his animal to be? That's right, it was an elephant.
Yeah. Nightwolf.
That was the thing. Like Mortal Kombat 3, I remember that came out, and it was just like, it had the friendships, it had the animalities. You turn him into a baby as well for like some bizarre reason, for ballet or something. But it just went mental. And then I think from 3, the next time I played a Mortal Kombat game was Deadly Alliance, and
I think that's interesting because they made. I think.
Yeah, because that was when they sort of proper went into the style of fighting. Like every character has 2 different styles and a weapon. Yeah, and it seemed interesting. But then again, with the lore stuff, you're just sitting there like, what the fuck is up for this stuff?
Yeah. Do you remember as well, Deadly Alliance? Do you remember as well for Deadly Alliance, the band Edema did a music video for Deadly Alliance?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, weird thing I
Very
found
good.
out. Like, I remember finding this out because of Mortal Kombat. I looked into it, and the lead singer I think his name was Marky Chavez for Edema at the time. I think he was booted out later on, but Marky Chavez is actually Jonathan Davis from Korn's stepbrother, or there's some relation there. Yeah, it's really strange because I remember like. Because I was a bit of a like metalhead and stuff when I was younger, like going to like gigs and stuff. But like it was a case of I remember hearing about that, and it was sort of being like, oh, like urban legend sort of thing, to the point where like that can't be true. And the internet was just sort of like becoming available everywhere, so you could go and look it up and find out. But yeah, it turned out he's some relative of Jonathan Davis from Korn or something. But yeah, it's really weird, that one.
So I came across one
But
the
then
other day
that
there
whole
where
time as well.
sorry, you go, Casey.
Sorry, go on, Dom.
I came across a weird one the other day, but it was like, if you watch is it Korn's Got the Life music video, Eminem's in that, and so is Fred Durst.
Yeah. Which is funny because they don't like each other, isn't it? Or is Slipknot don't like Fred Durst as well or something? But I don't think many people did like him. But to be honest with you, I can see why people don't like Limp Bizkit, but I will say this in their defense: genuinely one of the best bands I've ever seen live. It's flipping mental. Like I've never seen a crowd have the same energy than a Limp Bizkit concert. And we sort of went along doing that thing, like a bit like Family Guy when they go to see Barry Manilow. Like, no, would it be funny if we went along for a laugh? And then it's like, I love Barry Manilow. Me too. And then, like, it was kind of, we did that and went to see Limp Bizkit. And yeah, they're genuinely really good. Them, Limp Bizkit and Rise Against are two of the best bands I've ever seen live.
It's really weird that Limp Bizkit are still touring. Like you see Fred Durst now.
He looks really old,
doesn't he? Yeah, he just looks like this fat old version of himself. And you're like, how are you still going, bruv? But he is.
They're in Dublin next year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing another one. They toured last year and I missed it. But then they
came out before Casey came. So I am back to Resident Evil. So the was it one of the that was it. That's it. Resident Evil and the horror themes. One other film franchise didn't touch on, and I was going to say I always wished it was going to get a game, like a proper decent game, but it never got it. Was Underworld. Now you know the weird, Wes Borland in Limp Bizkit, the weird guy who's always got the weird face paint on and all the rest of it. Have you ever heard his own group called Black Light Burns?
No, of course I have.
You should really look that up. And there's this thing, it went around the internet, and like in the first Underworld thing, you remember when the main character, Michael, he starts to turn into a werewolf for the first time in the police car? And there's like there's a really heavy guitar riff, and everyone was like, who is that group? Who is that group? It's Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit. It's his band. And yeah, I love that group. And I literally only found it out through Underworld. It took a lot of digging on LimeWire to find it.
See, a band that I liked back in the early 90s was that Bowling for Soup. They had the big, it was just a bunch of fat guys. They would just take the piss out of other bands in their music videos. I love them. They were
good. They were. I think they played at do you remember NAS, like National Extreme, like the Extreme Sports Festival? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they played that, I think, because I remember being young and going to that, like, because we used to skate a lot at the time. And I remember going to that and experience my first genuine, I think I'm going to have a heart attack, because they would have, at the time, Red Bull and Monster had only really just started becoming popular and sponsoring stuff. And they'd have these guys that would have these backpacks on that if you went and bought like a drink or whatever, they would literally just walk around and fill your cup up like with this hose thing with Red Bull. And bear in mind, you're skating all day. You ain't got time to eat because you're on an adrenaline rush, and you're watching like other like famous people, like Tony Hawk was always there and stuff like that. And before you know it, you've had 4 or 5 of these, and you're like, I think I'm gonna die. I think my heart's given out. Like it's just like racing at that point.
That's what I sounded like 20 minutes ago. So
the resting heart rate of Jimmy Savile in a BBC changing room.
Yeah, so I do like that phrase that says something like, if you ever find yourself drinking more than 2 cans of Monster a day, it's probably about time you man the fuck up and tried cocaine.
Casey is proper dying. Is this because you were up north and that's you getting like the smog from Sunderland out your lungs?
Probably. I'm gonna say yes to that. I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't very nice weather-wise up there, and I will always blame the north if I'm sick because I live with a northerner as well, so it's her fault usually.
That looks like
Always
a
an
right
excuse.
cheap bottle of fizzy pop that you're drinking there.
Oh, what is that? Go on. You can't just wander off. What you got?
Just pink lemonade.
I was saying,
I get it.
that looked like a generic brand or like cheap juice.
Yeah, it's just Tesco's cheap stuff.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Tesco's pink lemonade. I've had it. It's lovely. But at first, from a distance, it looked like a random bottle of bars or something like that.
I mean, we could bring it up a notch, right?
So how was up north? How was up north, Casey? Did you have a good time?
Up north, it was all right. I had a banging curry, got a bit drunk. It was her mum's birthday. We literally went up the Friday night, back to Sunday, blinked, and we were back. But it was all right. It's just nice every now and again to do like a flying visit because we're up there for all of Christmas, and I know it's going to be a pain in the ass.
No Crystal Palace games for you.
No, I'm missing this week, annoyingly, which is against Newcastle. But I think we've got a lot of home games coming up, so I'm having to sort of be careful about what ones I'm picking to go to, seeing as it's nearly a 3-4 hour round trip now to get there.
Jesus.
Just start running Peterborough games.
Fuck off. I'm even more annoyed that in a couple of weeks' time I'm not going to a Palace game. But Bromley, where I used to live, they're playing in Nottingham. So I was like, sick. I could take the lad. We'll go Nottingham away. And she was like, no, you can't do that because I've got this on that. Fuck, don't. Nearly flipping the table. But
it's always
it's what happens when you don't. Yeah, it's what happens now when you don't live near the team that you follow. You just got to put up with shit like this.
It's like it's always this time of year as well when you plan to go do something. You know, at a camp, we got a Christmas party or a Christmas meal to go in and off. I try to avoid going to my work's Christmas do. But like the company I work for, I think you know who it is. Like to work for a company that makes military trucks and stuff. So they do like a family day when you can go. It's really good. They put on everything. Everything's paid for. They got a sweet shop there, and obviously the big military trucks are there. You can get your kids to get in the truck, and they will hoon it round the test track. My missus was like in the back, like, and they don't hold back. They really go for it, and like you're going down a hill that's like near vertical. And Mike and Liam, the eldest, he was sat in the front, and he was like, he got off, and he goes, I thought if it weren't for that seatbelt, I was going to be hanging out the front of that truck. So I going back to the Christmas party, I was like, yeah, don't worry about it, babe. There's no Christmas party. And then literally everyone at work when they met Sora again was like, coming to the Christmas party this year, and I stood behind him like, no, I gotta go.
Our work, we're going to have a Christmas party this year on a Thursday, and it was between 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock, and now they pinned it. I was like, ours
are having one on a Thursday.
Ours are having ours on a Thursday.
They said you can take Friday off if you want, but I don't know why you'd book it on a Thursday, but that's just
that's just so people don't go. That's what it is. It's just so people don't. And like, I think everybody was complaining that like, why are we doing it on a Thursday? Because it's used for a Friday or a Saturday. And they've just binned it now. That it's like, well, wait, you can have like team fun days in the office. Nah, you're all right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what though, right? I've noticed recently, and I think this is like a post-COVID thing, that in my work team especially, like a lot of people don't work Mondays or they don't work Fridays. So they condense their hours. They have 3-day weekends, and generally commuting into London now is easier on a Monday or a Friday because everyone's working from home if they are in, because they're going to think I'm not going in on the first day or last day of the week. So it's a bit more of a thing for people. I think now they're going to have work dues on Thursdays. Like even The last time I went out for drinks with work, I was on a Thursday. But Thursday's the new Friday in the office.
I work in like IT and cybersecurity, so I as much anything that can limit my interaction with the end user is more than fine. I'm sick of listening to it, hearing people who read a computer magazine once and tell me what they think they know. It's excellent. Yeah, my son's got this on his computer. Has he now? Does he work for a company that like is constantly targeted by Russian hackers? Does he as well? Is he that popular online? Is he? Because that's the reason you're not having it. Yeah, it's mad working in there. You kind of. I'll put it this way: my line of work, working as a carer in mental health years ago, really does pay dividends now. Because the skills are definitely transferable. Like you get to the point where you meet, like for instance, the ones that you find all the time. Is we got design engineers. These are smart people with multiple degrees, and I still genuinely find myself going like, "Did you not dress yourself this morning? Because you're messing up this badly on." Like when I see them, like the best one I've had recently is like, so I do like phishing campaigns, like I have to send out the email, see who falls for them, and all the rest of it.
I fucking hate those emails, man, because like, oh, you've won a voucher. Yes, and it's always when I get nominated for a Bravo one, oh, you got a $25 voucher. I'm like, fucking get in, clicking the like, and it's like, this could have been a Russian. For bots.
So
do this web source.
Generally, one of the best ones I had recently was there's this whole thing, like, because there's like top secret drawings and all that all going about. You should have like a policy where you lock your computer down, all the rest of it. And someone fell for the phishing email, and I knew who it was. So I was like, right, I'm going to go over and have a word with him. And I said, what the hell's going on? Like, you clicked on this phishing email. It wasn't even a good one. This was like one of my worst ones, and you clicked on it. And he genuinely uses his excuse. He goes, oh yeah, he goes, it wasn't me. I must have left my computer unlocked and someone else clicked it. Right. Why do you think that's a let off? You've double screwed yourself now.
Yeah. So what's worse, that you click the finishing link, or secondly, that you've actually acknowledgedly left your computer open for anyone to access?
I'm an arse at work. So if somebody is, well, I'm an arse all the time, to be honest, but when I'm at work, if I see someone who's left their computer unlocked, I will just pull up the page for what is furries and Taylor Swift tickets and leave it open on their screen for when they come back. Just stuff like that, just to mess with them.
What I used to do is, if I knew where they had went to, and then, like, if they'd went to the toilet and I'd maybe seen them leave, I would take a screenshot of their desktop, flip it upside down, and invert it. And then when they would come back, they would be so confused because like their mouse is going left instead of going right and going up instead of going down. Oh, that was always funny to watch. I then get told I had to stop doing that. So yeah.
So I got I made somebody go to HR the other day. They still don't know it was me. I just thought I'd mess with them a bit. Like, so the version of what you did, because obviously I can get into the back end of the computers and stuff, I do a bit more. So on the desktop, so I flipped his screens up the wrong way, and then changed his mouse to inverted, so it was all opposite. Then I moved a couple bits on his desk, changed a couple keys on his keyboard around, so he would write Dick instead of Nick. And then the cherry on the cake to someone who was in the office when he started raging was I disconnected the pigtail of the phone. Disconnected it, but just left it underneath the phone. So as he got angry and went to call HR, he pulled it and just the phone come away in his hand. Like he's just But it double screwed me because I had to go over and fix it, obviously. But I was thinking, he'd see the funny side in it, and I get over there, and he's like hyperventilating, red in the face, like, who did this? Did you see who did this? No, mate, I got no idea. These bloody people, innit? You should lock your screen more often, mate. That's what I would do.
There's this bird I used to work with who was dense, like proper dense. Like, she was ridiculous. But me and another bloke got a hold of extra mouses and plugged them into the back of her desktop because we sat opposite her. And every now and again, when she was doing something, we just knocked the mouse that we had, and you could just hear her like, "Why is my mouse moving? I'm not doing anything." And she just kept freaking out. Like, you do it once or twice a day. And we did it for like 3 months before she clocked. And she was like, "You lot dickheads." So, yeah, so are you.
But
you would
with
do
the
sorry, on you go, man. On you go.
with a lot of the things, one of the latest things that I do is, so I can actually show you one that I've been making. So, have you ever heard of bad USBs before? So the other thing you obviously want to train your staff to do is to not plug in devices that they don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's so. What I've done is I've made a load of. What they start off like is they look like these little switchboards.
Yeah.
And then 3D print a casing for them and put an adapter in. And they end up looking like this.
Oh,
now,
okay.
And then I just leave them all over the company to see if anybody plugs them in. So the first thing it will do is it will send a ping to a server that I've got set up, which will tell me whose machine plugged it in. And secondly, it will be then loaded to do anything I've programmed it to, from make a load of weird text appear on their screen. I've got one called Evil Goose that makes a goose that wields a knife. And the best bit about that one is it pops up just for about 2 seconds at the bottom of the screen. And then the user really gets to the point where they go, "Did I just see what I just saw?" And then it will walk back across the screen holding a knife again. Or the other is classically, as soon as they plug in the USB, it will rickroll their machine and not let them do anything until they've contacted IT. And then obviously when they contact me, I can tell them the code that they need to put in to stop it from doing it. It'd be like, "Are you going to plug random USBs into your machine again?" No? Good.
3 days
So
later.
essentially, you're paid to be a professional troll.
Yeah, basically legalized hacking, a lot of it, to be honest.
It's lovely. That's lovely.
Ethical hacking, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, penetration tester, which is another slightly dodgy name for it as well. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Penetration tester on your CV sounds a bit like.
Yeah. You're gonna spend a 2-hour session with a penetration tester. You're gonna be sore on the weekend.
Lube up.
So yeah, hobby anyway.
Have you done any hobbying then? If it's not been making up dodgy USBs and playing Souls and Resident Evil games, have you done any painting at all?
So it's mainly the reason I haven't been doing as much recently is just I feel like 40K's come off the boil a little bit. So I've been basically just on AOS, like doing the Skaven stuff. I got two sets of the Skaven Tide, so I was going through that, doing all that for quite a while. I've still some of the new Skaven models that have been released are incredible. Like they've really done really well on all those models. Like I do want them all, to be honest. The only one I can think of that I do think is a little bit bad is everybody pointed out on that new Claw Lord. He's got like that big gap on his arm, like where the sprue doesn't fit together properly. That's slightly annoying, but everything they've released has been brilliant. And to be honest, I've not even really been keeping track of the Warhammer community. And literally 2 days ago, I saw those posts about the Krieg box set, and I did think to myself that might be something I might be interested in doing. Because I've never collected, I've never played Astra Militarum at all, or Imperial Guard, or whatever you want to call them. But whenever you go to a club and you see somebody bring a fully painted Imperial Guard army, you're like, "Oh, that looks so cool!" Like, and Krieg is, in my opinion, I know everybody likes Katachan a lot, but for me, Krieg is my favorite out of the lot. I just love those models; they're so good, and so they look just the right amount of creepy dictatorship about them that I quite like, and with their mutant horses and stuff. They do look cool.
Yeah, they're just World War One guys, really, in gas masks. I mean, it's that aesthetic.
Yeah. It's simple, but it works.
Yeah, I love the artillery guns. Those new artillery.
Yeah, the artillery all looks
so good.
But also, I think, and this is what appeals to me a little bit about them, is they're all wearing gas masks. They're all wearing gloves. You ain't got to paint any skin.
Yes.
A standard guard army, you've got to do the faces and hands at least. If you're playing Catachan, you've got to do all them Arnie muscles and stuff, and the six packs. It's too much effort. So stick a gas mask on them, stick some gloves on them. Yeah, fucking great.
Yeah, I'm dead keen for that because, like, even though I've got Space Wolves as my Space Marines at the minute, I might strip them off and do something else. I do like Space Wolves, but they are bloody hard to paint. They're, like, it's not that they're really hard to paint. That's not the case. What it's hard to do, and I feel like I've done a good job with it, but it's keeping that color of your Space Wolf blue consistent across your army. Like, I have literally got a post-it now up there written with my method of doing it in case I go too long and I forget how I get it to that blue again, like the undercoat. And then I basically use the Space Wolves grey because the Space Wolves grey contrast is just, it's like covering it in paint water. It's not really a paint. So I use that as like the undercoat almost, and then build up the normal way of painting it, and then like dry brush the edges with different colours and stuff like that. But yeah, what I was thinking of doing, what would be cool, and then I'm sat there going, will you do that though? Is I would quite like to see Krieg in a snowy environment, like maybe base them similar to the way my Space Wolves are as well.
Yeah,
like still muddy and grimy and all the rest of it, because that's what I did with my Space Wolves tanks, was covered them in grime and like mud. Like you could tell, like the tanks, I don't like my, even though they're like loyalist Marines, I don't like them looking completely clean. I like putting the little armor chips on them and stuff like that. Like having them too pristine, I don't like that. So with the tanks, I wanted to make sure that the mud was all like churned up around the bottom of the tank and stuff like that. But with 40k, I think, generally for me playing it, I have to really be enjoying the lore. Like I have to like sort of be interested in the lore whilst I'm doing it, and that keeps me motivated. But I just feel like with 40k right now, there's just not a lot. Ever since Arcs of Omen, there's not been. I thought Arcs of Omen was pretty lackluster, to be honest, and since then it's not been good. And I'm not saying that it won't be good. Like I think that the story that came with Space Marine 2 was brilliant. I think that Henry Cavill's Amazon series is going to follow on from that. That's going to be brilliant. Although it's not the full-fledged thing that we all wanted. Like we all expected it was going to be a series, like just a Space Marine series or something like that. It's not going to be that, but it's going to be, you're not going to miss it. And looking at some of the exciting stuff that's appearing on Warhammer TV. So I've got hope that it will get better. I do wish that they would go a little bit less on the Space Marine side and start doing a bit more, because like Warhammer TV, they did that Tau animation, and that had Krieg Marines in it as well, and that was brilliant. That Tau one was really good. Was it Exodite or something it was called? And then at the very end, you got to see a Harlequin as well. They got so many options. It's just annoying that they keep going down the same routes again.
Yeah, you do get tired of just constantly seeing space trumps. Do you know what I mean? You do want something different.
I think for me, with like, I know I'm biased anyway, and I know the second I say this, I know I'm going to get 5 messages about this, and that is, I hate the Lion. I think he's the most boring Primarch of the lot. I hate him, but him coming back for Dark Angels fans, yeah, great. But he ain't beaten Angron in a million years. How did you write that into the story? How did he beat Angron? It doesn't even make any sense. But that's the problem with 40k. They it's almost like they're so scared of upsetting anybody that they just plot armor everything. Like they can't afford to have a character completely dead. They've got to plot armor him so he could come back. Which I guess
the thing, they killed off. But yeah, they've killed off, I don't know how many, like, they killed off, what was it? Donkeys ago, they killed off Tycho from the Blood Angels. They killed off Eldrad Ulfwan, how do we say the Eldar guy name? And since then, there's been just so much backlash about it. They're like, oh, okay, let's do this campaign, and what will happen is whoever wins, it will determine the fate of the universe for the 15th time. But, oh, look, even though Chaos won, Goodman's still alive anyway, fuck you.
Yeah. And this is the issue with it, like, because with 40k, I've always argued that, like, it's never been what it used to be, because, and I'm not trying to sound like that typical older person lecturing to somebody who's younger. I'm genuinely not doing that. It's the same with like Star Wars, because I was never into Star Wars when I was younger. I sit there and I watch like people rage about it, and I'm like, I'm kind of glad I'm not that attached to it, because I don't have to rage as much. And I get that, but like with 40k, it is a genuine cycle of, this is the greatest enemy mankind has ever faced. Oh wait, no, it isn't. The end. That's what it is, like, repeatedly, and you're just like, please do something to move it along a little bit. Like, for me, one of the best storylines they did, and it's not even that long ago, it was 8th edition, was the Psychic Awakening. I thought that was one of the best bits of story. That one, and the was it Vigilus before that?
Yeah.
Yeah, those two were brilliant, like, lore-wise. They were great. Like, so I don't know why they couldn't just do something similar to that. They had to sort of, like, Farsight's in Arcs of Omens is literally, his story is literally a repeat of a book that came out 2 years before. As he goes to the temple, spoilers if anybody hasn't read it, but he goes to the temple, basically chasing down pirate orcs. He ends up killing a load of them in this temple, and then he realizes that the blood from the orcs soaks down into the temple, which then summons a bloodthirster, and he ends up finding his blade, the Dawn Blade, and basically he manages to take down a bloodthirster, which is insane. Power scaling in 40k never seems to make any sense. Like,
they've had an eternal habit of doing that as well, though, haven't they? Like, throughout all the years, there's always like, oh, he goes there for this, and then this happens, and then there's another third enemy, just because we need to bulk this story out a lot more. And it's not even
our mutual friend Simon. He always has a good point on this. Is if you ever want to make a character look tough, he beat up a bloodthirster, and it's true. That's genuinely true. It happens all the time. Bloodthirster, kick the shit out of him. Look how strong he is, and then I'm surprised they didn't get Sly Marbo to take down a bloodthirster at some point. Like, just to throw it in for shits and giggles, like, just really take it on. But yeah, I think I did a bit with my Tau as well, but I've kind of backed off them for a little bit. But yeah, it's mainly just been the Skaven. I find, like, with my painting, I've like found like a sweet spot for my Skaven. Like, I quite like how they're not uniformed in any way, and I can use those other brands of paint like Turbo Dork and all the rest of it, and it really does complement how, like, so I've kind of done it, whereas before you'd have like a faction of Skaven. The mindset I had was that the army I was making is Thanquol's warband, so he would have bits of loads of different color schemes and all the rest of it. Like, one set of rat ogres I've got is like sort of in that purple armor, the other ones are in the green armor, and yeah, I just had it so I just have everything in there. It's not very uniformed at all in that, and I think from reading as much Skaven lore as I've been reading, I think that makes sense anyway. Like, they're not going to be uniform. They barely know the person who they're fighting for half the time, so it's not going to be any sort of semblance of organization there. It's just a ragtag all the time. And I loved when Skaventide got announced. I was super excited anyway, because Skaven's always been one of my favorite things. And just seeing what a good job they've done on it. Because normally when there's an army that comes out, I've always got some sort of criticism about something. And to be fair, in recent years, they've been bang on with nearly all the models they released. They've all been really good. There's not been that many bad ones, but there's always little things I think, oh, that could do better, that could do better. That Skaven release is probably one of the only ones where it definitely exceeded well further than I even envisaged them doing it. Like, every model was great. May not be great on the tabletop, but they all look good.
And that's what matters, isn't it? It's like, I think that's why I like doing like Death Guard and Chaos, is because, like, they're not necessarily going to be uniformed, because they're all like this war bands that you've got together. So the way I look at Death Guard now, it's just like a bunch of people getting together for a jolly old time, and that's why they all look different. Which is probably good with the Skaven as well.
I still think Mortarian's the best looking Primarch model out the lot as well. I've painted one of those models as well, and it's brilliant all round. Just to build it was fun. Painting him up was great. He looks fantastic. The one thing I wish I got good at was I always like the reason I've got a Space Wolf army, if I'm honest, is when I was younger, this is probably like 2nd or 3rd edition or something. My mate had Blood Angels. I had Blood Angels. His brother had Space Wolves, and they were like beautifully painted. And I was always jealous of him having those. I always wished I could have them off of him. And there was another mate who had Dark Elder, and I always wanted those Reaver jet bikes. But so I was like, right, I'm going to paint a Space Wolf army that I'm going to like, so it's going to be good. One thing I wish I did with the Death Guard one, similar, is learn to paint the cream-coloured Death Guard. Because I saw someone the other day in the shop, and they had like third-party gaming store, and they had Mortarian painted up in that cream-looking armor, like the old-school Death Guard armor, and it just looks so good. And those Blight Haulers, I love those little tracked Blight Haulers. They're just such a cool model.
Yeah.
The Death Guard models are great.
That's the pallid hand, isn't it? Colour scheme.
Yeah, that's it. Pallid hand. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got the patience to paint Thousand Suns, not in a million years.
I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go next year, Thousand Suns, and I'm going to hate every second of it. But when they're done, I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I still think as well, Ahriman, I think me and a mate were discussing the other day our top 15 models, and Ahriman definitely was in my top 15 for like best sculpts. That's a really good sculpt. That one. And the one that I know I always go on about this one, the one that tops my list, and it's weird because I don't even collect them. I've never really collected them. Painted a couple of them before, but Necrons, that Illuminor Xeras one, the one that's like pulling the soul out of that that guy on the base, that model, when that came out, I was like, oh, like that because it came out, there was that, and then Gaz came out literally right after, and I was like, they're just knocking home run after home run with these models at the minute. They're just so many good ones. And even the new Eldar models. I saw the Eldar release because, like I said, I haven't been keeping up to date with anything. So it was all a big surprise when I looked on Warhammer Community. I was like, wait, Krieg are back? Eldar are back? And then, like, I've never been big on Eldar either, but that Warp Spider Aspect Warrior, that looks flipping cool. Really cool.
And then they decide to bring out guy in stilts that's a sniper. And you're thinking,
oh yeah, which you pointed out, and for much anger, if I remember rightly. Yeah,
so much anger. Like, some guy really
boys are gonna splat. Yeah, yes, yeah. It's crazy. Like you, I always find it funny when people are like, "Oh, you can't have a go at them about that sculpt," because what if the people that make them see it and they're grown ass men, like, and men and women, like they're not getting offended by this. Like it's the lowest form of review if they even ever see the comments. So it's like they're never going to do that. But like I get that AdMech is supposed to be goofy and all the rest of it. But yeah, there are a few models in the AdMech army where I'm like, who signed this one off? Like the fact they've got a flyer that's clearly got wings made out of bed sheets between.
That's what I was going to say.
Poles. It just.
They're meant to be
the guys who trusting the Belgian Knights.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're the most technically advanced things, but here's this flyer that looks like it's made out of bat skin and like you say, scaffold poles. But it makes no sense.
Well, I don't understand what the benefit of a sniper being on stilts would be, to be honest.
and that guy just went to town on my page. I was like, dude, just stop messaging back. It's like, I don't actually care. I'm not going to collect these guys. So I don't actually care. You know what I mean? And he was off in one. Quite funny though.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and I remember commenting a few times to him. It was so funny. But yeah, you do get these people that get like really defensive over stuff. Like the amount of times I've posted like a Dark Angels meme, and I get like people, the best ones are like the people that inbox you. I get so excited when I posted a meme like that, and I see an inbox message, and I'm like, yes.
It's usually me biting and saying, "Don't attack me" and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's usually it's something like that. Or the one is people will be like why are you trash talking Dark Angels? What would you like it if I trash talk yours? No, do it more. Do it more. That's the best bit about this hobby.
That
What,
whole
what was the number
go on,
one? What was your number one model that is the best model? Then was it Mortarion?
For me, it's that Illuminor Xeris one. I don't know what it is about that model. I just like it so much. I think in third place, I think I had that Orc War Trike, the war boss on the War Trike, when he's holding up that big claw. I really like that model as well. That's a really good one.
I think you know what you're saying about Illuminus, however you say it. I think it's the sense that having painted Necrons now and having seen them, you realise how kind of like it sort of works for their lore that they're soulless. Painting them makes you feel soulless. Even like the vast majority of their special characters, generic pose. So here you got a guy ripping stuff out of a dude, and it just stands out. It's different for their army. It's just you didn't expect it, and it looks amazing. So I think that's what it is.
I always used to hate Necrons until 8th edition. I bought their Necron Codex, right, and I always saw them as soulless, like just machines, basically. And then I read the lore in the 8th edition book, and for me, other than the Gene Stealer Codex, hello, yeah, that's it. Yeah, the other than the Gene Stealers Codex, the Necron one was my favorite one by lore, because like you actually genuinely feel sorry for them, like because they were massively duped into what they did, and it was and like it is always that thing, like people in like Imperium fanboys, let's say in the 40k fandom, they're mad on no, the Imperium is the good guy. There's no way about this. Humans are the good guys, all the rest of it. But I genuinely, obviously, Night Lords is my favorite, so it should go without saying. But I genuinely do feel an affinity for a lot of these like villains, because like with the Necrons, you can see why they went after the old ones. Like you can see why they went out for revenge, and with the Night Lords as well, with Comrade Curse, I can see why he went mental. that would dig me in as well. Like, but just to say that they're just soulless. Well,
Would you say though that they've probably had the biggest shift in lore then? Because at one point they were just like mindless robots, and now some of them have got thought. And like I finished listening to the first, was it Infinity and Divine, or the first one of that series, and it was like they were just chatting away before they went in and got their new skin on. Do you know what I mean? So would you say that they've had the biggest retcon really since?
Yeah, them and Tau.
Yeah,
because Tau's had a big one as well. Because it always seems weird to me in 40k, because GW seems to always listen to the people that don't actually collect the army that they're moaning about. Like with Tau, is very much just like you'd be like, I don't like these Tau because they're not equal enough for the Grimdark, and that was always the phrase. And you're like, but are you ever going to collect them? No, I hate them. I hate how they look and everything. Like, well, why are you even interested then? Like. But I didn't always like Tau, but I always liked the Farsight Enclaves. I thought that was a cool take on. I wouldn't say they're the good guys. I would say they're the naive guys that think they're the good guys, but they are the closest thing you've got to the good guys in the setting. Other than maybe, I would say salamanders, but they're too busy burning elder children. There are characters in the setting that are genuinely good guys, like what's his name, Pedro Cantor, the Crimson Fist guy. He's like a bit humanitarian, and Kyvan Shrike for the Raven Guard. He's another one. Like they are genuinely sort of humanitarian people. Like they're not just going to sacrifice people. I did recently read that lore about the Grey Knights going to war with the Space Wolves. That was interesting as well.
Was that the first War of Armageddon one?
I can't remember what they call it, but they call it this like the time of shame or something. Basically, the Space Wolves were protecting a human populace, and the Inquisitor said, no, we need to kill them because they've seen too much. the Grey Knight, they summon the Grey Knights, and the Space Wolves are like, "You best fuck off now!" Like, and they actually go to war, and that's a really interesting thing. The other thing, obviously, that I wouldn't mind doing is I've got Leviathan to do. I've got the box set, like the complete box set, ready to go. Am I going to do it as Space Wolves, or am I going to do myself some Space Sharks? I really like Carcharodons as well. I think
they seem to be getting a lot of love this now. Because I've seen a few.
Yeah.
I've seen a few folk like banging on about Space Sharks, and that's just a no for me. Anything shark related, you can fuck right off. But how? Like, maybe this is a bit of a spoiler, right? But how did that end? Did the Space Wolves get absolutely malkied off the Grey Knight? Because you'd imagine that they would, because the Grey Knights are just so like elite.
No, but bear in mind he was going up directly. They were going up directly against like Logan Grimnar, so it wasn't just some random Space Wolves force, a small one. It was an actual full flotilla, and they basically battled to a stalemate. And I think I can't remember how it ends, but basically, I think like the human populace does still end up being destroyed. But yeah, the Space Wolves' lack of trust for the Inquisition is like pretty much throughout the story. Like the story always goes with Space Wolves. The Inquisitors show up, say you need to do this because the Emperor is telling us, and they're like, well, that's not what he told us, so off. Like off they go. But they never seem normal, do they? It's like you should get rid of all librarians, but these rune priests we've got, they're completely off limits. They can stay. But yeah, there's another space marine army that I always did tote the idea of was doing a full Death Company army.
Yeah,
Blood Angels Death Company. That's another iconic lot of them. But yeah, looking at it now, like Krieg is the only real one that's got my sort of ears pricked up at the minute. I don't want to do an Orc army at the minute, even though I've got a couple Orc models. I don't want to do an Orc army just because I've got a Skaven army. So, and if I did Krieg as well, that's three what I would consider Horde armies. It's just going to be too much. Tyranids is a no. I love the Tyranid models. I think the Tyranid models that have come out have been great. The one army that I regret selling. Like, so I've bought and sold armies because the way I always see it, if I'm not going to use it, I might as well sell it and fund my next project. The one army that I do regret selling is my Gene Stealer cults because they're such weird little testicle-headed balls of delight. They're just such a weird army. Like, but I'm not going to read those. Drakari. I want to buy a couple Drakari models. I want Lilith Hesperax because I just started reading her book as well. So I want to do that model. But yeah, there's the Krieg thing is the most intriguing for me at the minute. Those are it's the artillery pieces that have done it for me. I just saw the artillery pieces. Oh, they look so good. But yeah, there's loads out of them, and AOS is really that's like launched in popularity as well recently. Like I know people have been banging on about doing Old World and all the rest of it, but here locally, AOS is just blew up. Like overnight, it blew up, and I think I've seen a couple of the big hobby channels. They've even got a couple members. Like I saw Vanguard Tactics the other day. Like they've got a couple of theirs. They're playing a lot more AOS now, aren't they? And there's a couple other channels that have started putting it in a bit more. Horus Heresy seems to completely have fallen off the edge of the earth. I haven't heard anybody mention that in months. But Kill Team is still big around here as well.
Oh, they did that starter set, didn't they, recently? But they relaunched, like, they did a new version of Kill Team. I actually enjoy Kill Team. I was maybe going to play it at the weekend there, but I'm going up to the fishing club to do a work party instead. But I'm halfway through my Death Guards. Because it was all the hero models that they put in that Kill Team set, which I stood outside.
Kill Team's easy as well. Like, Kill Team comparing to like 40k as a system. Like, I know what you're saying. Like with like 40k, if you're collecting an army, you need the lore of it. But when you can do in a Kill Team, it's just big focus on your 5-6 minis that you got in front of you. And that's from a lore perspective. Developing that is much easier than a 2,000 point horde army of Gene stealers.
So-
They just eat planets. Oh, okay.
So I've bought a couple kill teams. I've got is it the Blooded?
Yeah,
The
I beat them
Chaos.
as well.
Yeah, the one with the big Ogrin. That's a cool set. And obviously, as soon as I saw a Night Lord one come out, so I've got to buy that. So yeah, I've got a couple kill teams. I haven't had a lot of games with it. There's been a few people around this way collecting Old World. Each to your own. I mean, I'm not spending 5 times the price on models that are 30 years old, 40 years old now. Like I'm not. I get the nostalgia bit. I completely get that. But the fact that for me, no Skaven, no party. So it's I'm not buying old Skaven again. I sold most of my old Skaven, like the old world Skaven, and I without bragging, it sold for quite a bit of money. So I'm not interested in reinvesting back into that again. But yeah, no. At the minute, like I'm kind of waiting until Christmas, sort of. It'll probably be AOS all the way, most of the way up until Christmas, and then after I'm sort of thinking of what else I can do. The last time I spoke to you on this, I think I was said about doing my board that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, most of painting that I've been doing has been terrain stuff. So I haven't like built the actual board bit yet, but I've been 3D printing like the pieces that I want in particular areas. So there's one, there's this guy, and he mainly sells on eBay, and he did this because I'm into D&D as well. I wanted I just wanted to fill some lore bits into the sculptures anyway. So he prints this wizard tower, and there's a guy on Instagram. I think his name is Chicken something gaming, and he does terrain building. And he did this thing where he had a similar. I basically stole the idea off of him. He got a tower, and then he used like fluorescent bulbs inside them to make it look like it was like sort of magic fire coming from within. So yeah, that's one thing I've been doing, and then it's just 3D printing and painting like terrain, which I mean it gets boring, but it is satisfying. That satisfaction when you finish a model comes much quicker with scenery. So there's that. You can put your brush down after half an hour's worth of dry brushing and go, I've done a lot of painting today, and then walk away. Whereas I think at the minute,
And he's gone. Never to be seen again.
Oh, no, there you go.
model wise, actual mini wise, the only 2 models I got pet on the painting board at the minute are getting these ones done. Those rattling.
Oh yeah.
Those cannons, basically.
Rattling Gatlings, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, they're the only ones I've got left out of the 2 Skaven side sets. I've got another Grace here, but because I don't want to paint 2 that look exactly the same, I'm trying to work out how I can make this one look a bit different. So I'm trying to get, he stood on that bell. I've been trying to like cut the bell away so I can put him on something else so he looks different. And then I've switched the staff in one hand to his other hand and the knife over onto the other hand. And just trying to make him look a bit different so I haven't got 2 that are exactly the same. The one that I really want is those poison globadiers, the Scryer Acolyte ones with the gas bombs and the gas masks. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to painting next. So
Sweet. Well, dude, I think it's maybe time we called it there because it's coming up for 2 hours, and I am missing. I must celebrate getting out of here.
Yeah, I can hear my missus watching it in the background.
I just say this just to wind you up, Casey. I just love your reactions.
It's always some old trash. It's never anything good.
Who says
Love celebrity, go fuck yourself, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I would watch that. Celebrity, go fuck yourself. I would watch that as well. You would probably do it.
Yeah. I've watched I'm a Celeb with my missus before, because she watches it every year. But this season, the people that are in it, I couldn't give a rat's ass about. I'm like,
Clean Rooney in it.
A woman from Love Island screaming for 15 yesterday, and I was like, I'm going.
I'm surprised Barry McGuigan never knocked her out last night because that was so annoying.
Yeah, I was playing because they relaunched World of Warcraft, and I, like a mug, got talked into playing World of Warcraft Classic by a couple mates from work. So I was sat there in the living room trying to play it, and then I was just heard that woman screaming, and I was like, "Please, someone just shut her up! Like, please, anything, brick, anything, shut her up." But yeah, sadly that didn't come. Barry McGreen didn't knock her out.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I just sorry, Casey, you were going to say something there.
If you're back into World of Warcraft, I've got a lot of shame stories about World of Warcraft from my old days of playing it, and we'll have to save them for another day because we're out of time.
Yeah. We'll do a more planned meeting on one. I'll tell you what we should do next. So we'll do one sooner next time, and we'll do a game. We'll do a top 20 gaming thing where we go away, come up with our top 20, and then we'll compare lists and justify our answers.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on, and thanks for finishing off No New Guest November for us. We actually had some pretty... We had a lot of fun with the guests that we had on, even though Instagram fucked us over with Graham McNeil.
Fucked you. Fucked you over.
I did.
Well, did it just not work or something?
I just crashed.
Nope.
We tried bringing Casey on twice, and like it just melted. That's why this is why we kind of moved trying between Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. So we're just seeing which one would be the best going forward. But I think we've done all right. Like, we've got 5 followers, which was 5 less than what we had 3 hours ago.
Which is, should I do this and just make sure people feel like it's a normal stream?
Is that the follower count going up?
But yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming on, man. Because I think we're going to do like more of these kind of wee throwbacks and bring guests on and do catch ups, so that you just don't think that we've kind of just forgotten about.
Well, now you're doing it on Twitch. If you can think of a game we've all got, we could always do a chat whilst gaming. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing you can do through this Discord and that as well, isn't it? Like, kind of hang out that way as well. I mean,
yeah, especially with the beat 'em ups I mentioned earlier. I was on a couple Discords where we would have like full streamed tournaments, and like people would jump in and jump out, and yeah, it worked well. Twitch is a good platform, to be fair. Once you've got the hang of Twitch, in my opinion, it's the best one.
Yeah, I think it's just getting people to come join us and getting that following up and hitting all the landmarks. But I think we've made the right decision in moving over out of Instagram.
Instagram's definitely got worse, definitely. Yeah. That shadow of that.
But Noobricon, man, thanks for coming on again. Next week, folks, we have Serious Business, which is a small retailer in Sligo in Ireland. And I think they're doing their raffle. So if you still want to buy raffle tickets, I think reach out to them through their Instagram or Facebook. Some of their prizes are like, there's some really, really good prizes there. And I think I said that I wanted one where, why didn't the panda fuck or something like that in one of the, like some book or something about a panda and making panda love or something. But they've a nice wee shop, man, and we'll have them on next week. I'm going to see if I can now get this downloaded and onto YouTube somehow, and we'll see you all next week, folks. Sorry, one last thing. Casey, any words of wisdom from yourself?
Don't cough your guts out, it sucks.
And Noobricon, if people don't follow you, where can they follow you? Any shout outs?
Don't forget that bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And haven't you got to do your sponsor again?
No,
we've done it.
We've done that.
Oh, you only got to do it once.
Well, I think because we do it in a segue, and you can't predict these things. You know what I mean?
Each week you're gonna have to find a phrase that you're gonna need to. Oh, see, there's a segue. See, orange balls.
Casey, what are you juggling?
Why?
Did your missus give you your balls back? And on that bombshell, we'll see you next week, folks. Thanks very much to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.